Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's session of Food Literacy for All. I'm super excited about this session. Our talk tonight is titled Imagining New Possibilities, Perspectives on Student Food Sovereignty. And we have a really cool collection of folks, professors, students, and folks who work in student sustainability here at the University of Michigan. So we'll welcome Dr. Michael Classens from University of Toronto, some University of Michigan students here, Lauren Jones, Kenya Hall, and Kaylee McMillan, and then Clara Gamalski, Assistant Director of Student Life Sustainability here at University of Michigan. Food literacy for all comes from the support of the University of Michigan Sustainable Food Systems Initiative, as well as Growing Hope, the Oakland Avenue Urban Farm, Detroit Food Policy Council, Detroit Black Community Food Sovereignty Network, University of Michigan Program in the Environment, and the School for Environment and Sustainability. The team who runs the show here every week includes Amanda Edmonds, who's our faculty co-instructor and a lecturer here in the program in the environment. Julius Buzzard, our community co-instructor and the executive director of Growing Hope. Myself, Taylor, I'm your graduate student instructor. And then we have Sammy Maldonado running things from Minneapolis. She's our course coordinator. Our wonderful tech team. We couldn't do anything without them. Chris Taylor and Marissa Stafford. We've got Russell Lynn, who helps with our newsletter, and those amazing community partners that I just mentioned as well. For those of you who are joining us from the community, and even within our student, even if you're a student, there are certain ways you can engage in the Zoom webinar here. So you can use the chat for general comments or urgent questions. We really love when the chat is kind of an active space where you all get to engage with each other. If you like something that the speakers are saying, share out. Q&A, we ask you to use specifically with questions for the speakers. So we have a Q&A feature right here in Zoom, and we'll come back to that when we do Q&A on the back end. And we also have the option to turn on the live transcript and closed captioning. For those of us who were with us last week, it was such a special talk, one of my favorites so far. Every week we ask students to submit a little reflection on what they took away or what they found most powerful in last week's talk. And we just pulled some of those quotes out. So we invite you to take a peek and see what students were sharing. I think in general, we can all agree that Jim has a really contagious and positive energy, and he's definitely a visionary. And that was reflected in sort of what students shared back with us here. Every week as well, we have around 20 students submit a reflection to the required readings. So this week we had students responding to readings that Dr. Michael Klassen and U of M folks gathered. These are sort of required readings about campus food systems and alternative campus foodways. So this week we choose one to share out every week, and this week we have a video prepared by Brittany, who's a doctor of pharmacy student.
The topic this week dealt primarily with food systems, specifically within university campuses. I found it very interesting for multiple reasons. The one thing that was pointed out in the article titled Food Systems and Community Development was how student dorms lack kitchen spaces for students, and overall that leads to decreased food literacy and cooking skills. Not to mention coupling that with 40% of students who are food insecure, I think really paints a broad picture of how the campuses themselves create an environment where students can't really truly know where their food is coming from, how it's being made, and through programs like CFGS, specifically here on campus with the farm stand, you get that more one-on-one experience, seeing the food in person and being able to prepare it for yourself after the fact. I think really proves that um, oftentimes it's the community that uplifts you. You know, these are students supporting students at the end of the day, and it just kind of fills those gaps that the universities, just through how they operate, have created. Overall, very interesting articles and very eye-opening to the current state and what we can do to change it.
Great. Thank you so much, Brittany, for your reflection. Really appreciated that.
So
Move.
each week we've got a question of the week. And so this is the one, you notice up in the left-hand corner that is only Zoom. So it's no iClicker for this one, iClicker for the remaining ones for those of you who are students, and then community registrants will answer the Zoom poll. But this is the one where we like to get a sense of the room, and because the Zoom polls show up right away. So did you eat a vegetable today? This was suggested by our team. Yes, no, not sure. Strong yes among this audience. 84% coming in. We'll wait just 5 more seconds. Well, I'd be curious. I wonder what you guys think. If this were a class that wasn't all about food, do you think that this number would be as high as it is? We're here about 79, 80% are at a yes, and some people are unsure. Anyway, finish getting your results in. Thanks for that. And I'm gonna turn it over to Clara Gamelski, who will be introducing all of our speakers in a little bit more depth. As you heard, Clara is the Assistant Director of Student Life Sustainability. And for those of you, well, in the university or not in the university, that is the unit that does help support students doing food stuff in all of the ways that aren't in their classes. So that might be in residence halls, in dining, other student initiatives, student advocacy, et cetera, et cetera. And there are a myriad of programs and opportunities and grants and many ways to get involved. You students, you see that we are highlighting those on a weekly basis in the class and in our newsletter. But Clara, I've just been getting to know, which has really been exciting. And we've got some great things schemed up together on campus. So I'm going to turn it over to Clara. Welcome. Clara is one of our 2 affiliates. You hear there's a lot of people on this team for putting together a course as complicated as this. And Clara is our sort of staff affiliate this year, i.e. just sort of a liaison to help make sure that we have some of the work that she's doing really incorporating this class, and helping to organize this panel is a great example. So take it away, Clara.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today with this group of people, and thank you, Amanda, for that introduction, and all of the instructional staff for all of your work coordinating this. It is, I now see behind the curtain. It's a lot of work to make this all happen. So thank you, truly. Um, I'm Clara Gamalski. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Life Sustainability, and I'm also an advisor for Sustainable Food Program. I am realizing now that I didn't eat a vegetable today, but I checked with all of our panelists and they did. Um, and I will introduce them now. So first up, we have Dr. Michael Classens, who's an assistant professor in the School of Environment at University of Toronto. He's interested in areas of social and environmental justice, especially within food systems. He's published widely on campus food systems, among other topics, and is presently editing a book about how post-secondary campuses are transforming food systems. Michael is also a founding member of the U of T Food Coalition and the Tri-Campus Food Symposium. Lauren is a second-year grad student in the School for Environment and Sustainability at U of M, studying both ecosystem science management and environmental policy and planning. Lauren worked for 2 years as the manager of the farm stand and stewarded the initiative's expansion from just a few folding tables to a 16-foot trailer in the Diag. She's currently working as an intern with Student Life Sustainability, supporting visionary organizing and community projects. And she recently helped plan a regional summit in visionary organizing for college students at multiple institutions across the Great Lakes region. Kenya Hall is an undergraduate senior majoring in program in the environment. They're passionate about building resilient and equitable food systems both on and off campus. In addition to focusing their academic career on sustainable agriculture, they applied this knowledge hands-on at the campus farm, where they've worked since 2023. Kenya is currently holding the position of lead student manager, which means that Kenya is the boss. And Kaylee McMillan is a third-year student studying program in the environment, and she'll be pursuing a degree in environmental justice at SEAS. She's currently on the leadership team of the University of Michigan Sustainable Food Program, where she acts as one of two kitchen and foodways managers. In this role, she combines her love of food, art, and community building by organizing and facilitating Rooting for Change Cafe, a fully operational pop-up restaurant and arts workshop that opens monthly-ish in Palmer Commons. And we'll start with our first poll question, and then I can kind of get us started with our panel. Which of these student-run initiatives does not exist on the University of Michigan's Ann Arbor's campus? A farm stand on wheels, a cafe with coffee roasted by students, a 10-acre GAP certified farm, or a pay what you can grocery store.
And I have the student results coming in here on the back end. So I don't know. It's changing pretty drastically. So most students, I would say there's almost a tie between cafe with coffee roasted by students. If there's one of those, I don't know where it is. Pay what you can grocery store. Some folks are saying there is no 10-acre GAP slash GAP certified farm. And 10 students say there is no farm stand on wheels. Let's give this just maybe 7 more seconds so students can get their answers in. But Clara, in the meantime, maybe you can give us the answer.
Yes, the answer is pay what you can grocery store. And if you listen to my introductions for our esteemed panelists, I mentioned all of these other ones. Sustainable Food Program is really interested in pursuing an idea of a grocery store. And although we have a free student food pantry, the Maize and Blue Cupboard, there is not a grocery store on campus. When was the University of Michigan Sustainable Food Program founded?
All right, everyone seems to be saying 2011, 2012. And by everyone, I mean 70%. We have 17% of students guessing 2015 to 2016. 5% of our students are thinking 2004, 2005. And then 10 students are thinking 2019, 2020. What's the correct answer?
The 2011 to 2012 academic year. So good job, most of the audience.
Wonderful.
So before we get started with our conversation, I'll set us up a little bit and I'll say, so the other day I met someone new. I was not at a work event and I was making small talk with them and I mentioned the farm stand. And they sort of stopped and looked at me and they were like, every time I walk past there, the students who are working there look like they're having so much fun. Is it possible that your work is the happiest place on earth? And I was like, unequivocally, no. But I know what you mean, right? I understand that sentiment because in part, it's delightful to walk past the farm stand and people are with their friends and they're hanging out in the diag and the weather's often nice. And we know from this class that food builds relationships, right? There's a unifying power of food. But I think it's something else too. There's a sort of sense of energy and of possibility in so many different student-led food projects that we're going to talk about today. And I think these projects often exercise incredible creativity, and there's like a real power that a person can feel from experimenting with systems change, even if it's a small scale on a college campus. And I think that's why these projects are so suited to the framework of visionary organizing, right? So visionary organizing asks us to strive for a world in which our material and our non-material needs are equally met. Each of the different student food sovereignty initiatives that you're going to hear about involve students imagining new possibilities for our food system that can do just that. And so with that, I will hand it over to Michael to offer some of his perspectives on students meeting their own material and non-material needs through campus food system innovations.
Great. Thanks for that, Claire. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, great. Yeah, look, I mean, before I start, I want to reiterate the thanks to Julius and Amanda, Taylor, Sammy, just for all the incredible organizing work that goes into this class, and also Chris and Marissa for the tech support. Clearly, this is a very sophisticated sort of outfit, and I'm super super impressed and just, I mean, really really happy to be here. I'm a food nerd and also a pedagogy nerd, so this just hits all of my boxes. So I'm really thrilled to be here. And maybe I just want to start with sort of expressing that gratitude, in a really heartfelt way. I think particularly these days, I mean, we can't take these spaces for granted. I feel like I've been saying this for many years now, but it's increasingly, I think, important to just underscore, how lucky we are to sort of get to share these kinds of virtual spaces, and physical spaces, right? I mean, we all sort of have our own networks that sort of nourish us, and it's such a profound privilege to get to be here with you all today. In particular, the students as well, right? I mean, I think this is sort of the focus of today. So yeah, just really really excited to be here. Um, Claire, you mentioned food sovereignty, right? And so generally speaking, food sovereignty is the right of peoples, obviously, to define their own sort of sustainable, culturally appropriate, healthy food systems. Emphasizing local control over production, distribution, etc. Um, and this idea really sort of is popularized, I think maybe many of us on this call know, by Livia Campesina, sort of a peasant movement to the global south. Um, and if we take this sort of proposition seriously, it's a very radical idea, particularly when thinking about the context of campus. And at a fundamental level, these are, again, really kind of radical ideas, and they speak to questions ultimately of democratic control, empowerment, social transformation, right? Sort of reinscribing our relationship with the natural, the so-called natural world, the more than human world. So these are really, really radical ideas. And some of the work that I've been doing over the last several years, has demonstrated, I think, the sort of potential in this kind of organizing. Maybe before I talk a bit about that, I want to reflect just real briefly. And Claire, you should stop me if I've. Is this a good time to ask another question, or should I keep going? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, I mean, I mentioned I'm kind of a pedagogy nerd, so folks like Bell Hooks, Paulo Freire, Miles Horton. I mean, these are really really important people that I've learned so much from. And I was recently rereading this conversation that took place at the Highlander Institute, which many of you will know, between Paulo Freire and Miles Horton, just before Horton passed away, actually. And so I've read this book several times, but one of the things that really jumped out to me this time is, all the way up, I can't remember the page, 205 or something, or 205. Horton talks about this process of bootlegging, referencing in particular sort of Tennessee, bootleggers, and how, during Prohibition, they used to sort of like, sneak bottles of booze into their boots, and that's where this sort of term comes from. But he talks about it in the context of education, and that bootlegged education is a kind of metaphor that he's playing with in a couple of pages. And as I reflect on this and think about the kind of organizing that happens through food, it resonates with this idea of bootlegging, I think, because food is a way of talking about all kinds of different issues, right? Social justice, racial justice, economic justice, all these other sort of big ideas. You can talk about these things through food. And what I found, student organizers, kind of across North America, particularly in Canada, the ones that I've, spent some time with, this is a kind of key theme in the work that they're doing. In some ways, using food as an organizing tool. Now, the food is important, of course, because that students are just disproportionately impacted by food insecurity. In Canada, the most recent numbers just sort of like 2021, so it was kind of the height of COVID, but those are the last good national numbers we have. Was upwards of 60% of students had, either moderately or severely food insecure. So just astronomical numbers. And so the food part is important, but what's, I think, in some ways just as important is the sort of bootlegged kind of politics that come with organizing around food on campus. One of the inspirations for sort of me turning my eye to this initially was actually thinking about the history of the relationship between students, campus, and broader movements for social change. So from the post-war period forward, civil rights movement, women's liberation, et cetera, we see students sort of at the forefront of these movements. And I think we're seeing a similar thing in the context of food justice at this very moment. And so, I think that these kinds of initiatives allow for a few kinds of things, which I think are important just to quickly point out. So I think student power is one. I think students remain a quite marginalized group relative to sort of society, economically marginalized, often dismissed, in some cases sort of, discursively attacked by, those in sort of political leadership. And so doing this kind of organizing is a way to sort of, for students, I think, to sort of wrest back some power. Learning how to organize. I don't think often in many of our courses, students learn how to organize. I did a kind of side quest a couple of years ago and actually co-developed a course with students. And I wanted to do that because I wanted to hear what they would want to learn. And, one of the things that came out of these, we held, I think, 5 sort of collaborative co-design sections, I called them. And one of the things that came out very strongly is that students wanted an opportunity to learn how to organize on campus. Often they didn't have time to organize outside of keeping up with coursework, 1 or 2 part-time jobs. Maybe they had a sick parent, very, very busy lives. And so they wanted to learn how to organize. This came out very, very clearly in this work. And I don't think that often in universities we're teaching students how to organize. They're taking it upon themselves to do that organizing work. And I think it's a really valuable contribution that I think these alternative campus food systems, as I've been calling them, confer to students. I also think, another benefit of these spaces that comes, I think, across in the research is learning to be in collective. I think so often we're compelled to be these kind of possessive individuals who just sort of like move through the world, sort of just satisfying our own individual needs. And we know that that's actually not the case. We're often compelled to feel that way, whether it's through the transactional nature of education often, or the sort of social media sort of barking at us to just sort of buy more things and consume more. But really, we're inevitably interconnected and interdependent on each other. And I think organizing in this way on campus provides opportunities to sort of practice that, to practice being in collective, to flex those muscles, right? Maybe sometimes, it's like if you don't use a muscle, it atrophies. And organizing in collective allows us to sort of build up that collective muscle, which I think is absolutely essential. And then, of course, it's worth mentioning, of course, learning to grow and distribute food is no small thing. Again, we know that rates of food insecurity in both of our countries, and on campus in particular, are just sort of astronomical and continually getting worse. And so there is obviously a role to play for this just very basic thing of growing food. And I know, lots of the great work that's been done in Michigan and Detroit in particular, has been super, super important for informing others right around North America, even to sort of how to do this work. And so we can add those things up, student empowerment, learning to organize, practicing being a collective, food. I mean, it just creates such a dynamic and ultimately impactful kind of milieu within which all this work is happening. Another thing, maybe just briefly, and then I'll wrap up, is Brittany mentioned the generous student who we saw that short video clip at the beginning of the presentation, mentioned students supporting students, right? And I think that this is such an important idea. But I also want to just point out that this is not an unproblematic thing. I think it's, on the one hand, really important to celebrate this work because it is students supporting students. And that's a lovely thing for all the reasons that I just mentioned. But I don't want to let pass the idea that, that it's maybe not the best reflection on where we are as a society, that students need to be supporting themselves in the context of food security and, more ambitiously, food sovereignty. Now, look, I know that that's a huge, that's a bunch of different issues, of course, but I just think it's worth underscoring, right? The way that I like to think about ultimately campus food sovereignty is what would a campus look like where even the thought of student food insecurity would be unthinkable? What would that campus need to look like? And by extension, what would our society need to look like? And ultimately, that's, I think, what drives me and the work that I do. Again, just I want to express the gratitude that I have for getting to be here and getting to do this work. And I look forward to just learning from everyone for the next little while. So thanks again for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Michael. And with that, I will hand it over to Lauren, Kenya, and Kaylee to share a little bit of 3 brief case studies about student food projects.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Michael, for your wonderful input. It was wonderful to hear from you. And thank you for the very generous introductions, Clara. We all appreciate it. And thank you so much to everybody for having us here. So today, us 3 are going to talk about imagining new possibilities, some perspectives on student food sovereignty through the lens of some really, really cool projects that are happening on campus as we speak. But first, I would like to take a minute to define what food security is. Dr. Classens mentioned this a little bit, but I thought it'd be helpful to give you guys a concise definition. Food security means ensuring both the physical and the economic access to a sufficient amount, a safe food and nutritious food that both meets people's dietary needs and their food preferences, so that they can have a healthy and fulfilled life. And ensuring food security on campus, it is the absolute foundation for all of the work that we do. So building upon that, we are going to do a really quick poll. Knowing this definition, would you describe your college lifestyle as food secure? Answer yes or no. And just for a recap, that means having both the physical and the economic access to the fruits and vegetables and the types of food that make you have a fulfilled, food secure life.
And we have a question for the community as well, just tailored a little differently. Knowing this definition, would you describe your young adult lifestyle around 18 to 25 years old as food secure? distribution is looking relatively similar. We have 71% of our students saying yes, they are food secure. 26% saying no. And on the community side, we see 65% saying yes and 35% saying no.
That's really interesting. That's a good chunk of people in both boats. It's good to know.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap up the iClicker poll here. All right.
Now I'll hand it off to Kaylee real quick to talk about the U of M Sustainable Food Program, our first little snapshot of what we're talking about.
Okay. Hi, guys. I'm Kaylee. I'm on U of M Sustainable Food Program or UMSFP's leadership team. And this is a picture of our team. There's 13 of us. I'm one of two kitchen and foodways managers. And across this board, we encompass marketing and coalition and student engagement and events. And we have two co-presidents and a farm stand manager and grants. And there's a ton of different moving pieces that make all of this work. So I just wanted to send a warm message out to my team. They make everything possible. And yeah, UMSFP is a completely student-based food sovereignty movement on campus. I think our purpose is best described as like small experiments and incubation. We do a lot of like visioning and experimenting and dropping a project and letting the project leave us. And I think we're best when we're all sitting in a room and like yes-anding and thinking about this like beautiful utopian future where there's fruit trees on campus and we all sing over shared meals. Yeah, and I'm just gonna walk us through some of our programming. So one of our big things is Harvest Fest. This is in collaboration with the campus farm and the farm stand, which you're going to hear more about later. But it's just this like really beautiful celebration at the beginning of every school year where we have a ton of student-grown food and student bands and community partners and dining partners and crafts and tours and singing and dancing. And it's just this really beautiful like culmination of our work. And it also brings both community members and students alike onto the campus farm and to the farm stand to show them like what we're doing and how beautiful it all is. And it just, I don't know, it brings everyone together. And then more on the UMSFP side of things, we have a ton of different events, just a couple I have pictured here. One of them is Cooking in Community. We run this event about twice semesterly where students get to come in and my co-manager and I come up with a recipe and sort of facilitate this like cooking and community building workshop where we share stories around food and we share a meal together and we all like, I don't know, play off of each other's skills. And it's this really cute, just like bringing everyone together that we get to do. We also have Rooting for Change cafes, which we also throw twice a semester, and they're a mix of this like storefront you see here, which we took over in the Palmer Commons, which is a building on campus and made into the Rooting for Change cafe. So our team cooks this gorgeous meal for everyone that students can come grab for free, and then we have a community arts workshop. So we've done placemat weaving and mending and a makey workshop and patchmaking. And it's just this super cool opportunity for students to come get food in a different way that they normally would, in a different maybe quality or style that they normally would, and participate together in a really cute like arts workshop. We also do the bite-sized talks. It's like our celebration at the end of the year. It's this mixed arts community event where performers come up on stage and share their vision of a food system or their relationship with food or anything like that through dance or song. And it's just a gorgeous celebration at the end of the year. And then on the back end, we also have the Underground Zine, which is this ongoing project that we've had for years, which mixes art from our team and the community all about food and our visions of the food system. And then we have our grants program. So our grants program is partially funded by the revenue from the farm stand and is basically designed to support student food initiatives on campus and cultural food initiatives. So this is giving money for cultural events where food is like a super important part, and it ties this group back to their heritage or whatever have you. And then we also have the food projects. So we've funded a chicken coop and gardens and pantries. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna hand it over to Kenya with the campus farm.
Hello. Another one of UMSFP's glorious projects was the campus farm, started in 2012. As Clara mentioned earlier, as part of the question, it is a approximately 10-acre GAP certified farm. GAP is a voluntary certification that we sort of get re-audited every year. It basically just means that we're taking a lot of care with like cleanliness and making sure that like our wash pack areas are all like clean. It's a food safety standard thing. That 10 acres includes approximately 3 acres of land that we're growing active vegetables on, and also 4, you can see in this picture here, large solar-powered hoop houses. The clear glass and plastic of those hoop house roofs mean that they capture a lot of energy from the sun and so don't need power to stay heated, which helps extend our growing season. And we also have research plots, like grad students have ongoing research plots on the farm. And it's just a really cool community space where a lot of different groups of people can sort of come together and do a lot of different things. We have a class, Campus Farm Practicum, that includes a lot of students that come out in the fall and sort of work on shifts and learn about farming. We have a lot of just individual volunteers, plenty of student organizations and clubs come out for tours and work days. We've had families, we've had housing communities, we've had the dining staff. And it's just a really great place where a lot of people who like, normally don't have the time or the resources or the land for gardening can sort of come out, get some sun, get some hands in the dirt, pick some delicious tomatoes, and really help out the community because the vast majority of our produce goes to the dining halls. If you've had chard in your salad bar, it's probably from the farm. We also give some to the hospitals and some to the MBC, the Maize and Blue Cupboard, which is the student food pantry on campus. If you want to move the slide a bit forward. This is just another angle to show more of the land that we have on the farm. The previous picture was a hoop house. This is a beautiful student volunteer helping to plant some seedlings in the ground. And yeah, it's just a great collaborative space, sort of food grown by students for students, and sort of get a chance to do that tangible, empowering work of growing food for yourself and for your community. Thanks. I will now pass it to whoever's talking about the film stand.
That would be me. Yeah, so aside from it being the happiest place on earth, the farm stand is a super, super cool project. It was born out of the minds of both UMSFP and the campus farm to make this collaborative, super powerful project. It is a pop-up vegetable market, fruit and vegetable market that aims to sell organically, sustainably grown produce that was grown by students and sold to and for students. So it's a really fantastic relationship between it's a bridge between students and the systems that feed them, help students kind of take some ownership over the food that they have and where they choose to put their money. So here is just a photo of what the farm stand looks like. And then the next one, this is one of our managers, Marley from the campus farm, just prepping some of our vegetables. As you can see, we try and have a wide array of vegetables and fruits to help with all palates. And then not to toot our own horn, but we're pretty popular. People really, really love the farm stand. It's open during the fall semester. It's going to be open again, I think, towards the end of August, right around Welcome Week is usually when it opens. And yeah, the project seeks to increase access to local food for students and engage the wider U of M student and broader faculty and community in food sovereignty and food access initiatives, all while trying to keep prices very, very affordable, keep the variety really large, and to give people a really great opportunity to learn about food and to engage with all the wonderful things that is a sustainable food system. So I'm handing it off to Kaylee to talk about, oh, whoops, student food sovereignty.
Okay, so all this being said, what is student food sovereignty? We talked about food access, which is meeting basic needs economically and physically. So, student food sovereignty expands outside of that. It's trying to meet both material and non-material needs of students. So, food in every sense you could think of food. Food as nourishment for your body and the soul. Food as a connection to culture and storytelling and other people. And food in the more systematic sense. How can we manage it as students? How can we do it sustainably and locally? So, our vision of student food sovereignty and all of these projects together is trying to like do these little small experiments everywhere in the food system and see how we as students can manage it differently. Like we've talked about, students are disproportionately food insecure compared to the community around them. So, student food sovereignty is this like unique niche where we're operating within a system, but we're trying to operate outside of it and tackle food insecurity at a rate that maybe other people our age aren't seeing. So, with that, we're moving to one more poll question. So, we want to know what aspect of student food sovereignty you resonate with the most.
And there should be a Zoom poll as well. Although I think we accidentally ran that one earlier, so maybe it won't come up. So if not, then we invite the community to just think about this. But I'm seeing student results coming in, and it's a pretty even split here. Ah, there it is. Okay, there's the community poll for those of us joining via Zoom, who aren't taking this class for a grade. So coming from the community side, most folks are saying access to nutritious foods, so food security. But coming from the student side, we see pretty even split among all of them. 16% of students are saying cultural significance and storytelling. 18% of students are saying sustainable production. 24% are saying community building through shared meals. 17% are saying locally grown and community managed, and 25% are saying access to nutritious foods, food security. So we're going to wrap up this poll now and pass it on back to the students.
Thank you so much for all of those presentations. You guys covered so much ground in such a short period of time, and I just love hearing you guys talk about the work that you do and taking a step back and realizing how like it's very impressive. You guys are very impressive. We will start taking questions from the audience. But if I may first use my moderator privileges to ask you a question from my own brain. And Michael, you can also weigh in on this if you like, and maybe can speak to a little bit about how this works at UT. But Lauren, Kaylee, Kenya, you guys discussed some very tangible, very sort of like high visibility projects, the cafe, the farm stand, the farm itself. And I know this might seem obvious in some ways, but could you talk a little bit about how these projects are exercises in imagining new possibilities or experimenting with transformation for a different vision for the food system as a whole?
I can start. The Reading for Change cafes, which I showed, which are where we serve food to students and then do that little community workshop. I think of them as like just like a little lab for us. These Reading for Change cafes are like a really new thing, and the idea was like, okay, campus doesn't have any cafes or any restaurants or anything run by students, what if we just do that? And that's basically where we are. We're experimenting in a new like area of the food system where before these cafes we had already, or UMSFP had like started the farm and started the farm stand and done the maize and blue cupboard. It was like, okay, well now how do students serve food and how do we hit that like sort of community meals aspect? So I think that's totally us just playing in an entirely new space. And I'll also add that like the cafes are always changing and we're always like working on what we can do next and how we can, I don't know, do it differently. So I think it's just one big experiment.
I love that, Kaylee. It's always so wonderful to see all of the cool stuff in all of those cafes that you guys are doing. It's really, really inspiring. As for the farm stand, the more I think about the farm stand and the more I think about the magnitude it's able to do for students and for just sustainable food in general, I'm always blown away. Um, just for some context of some farm stand history, when I was doing my first year as their manager, uh, we were we were right outside of the art museum in I think what was about two tents and maybe eight folding tables, and that was the extent of the farm stand. We got our shipment in the back seat of a little van, and then we sold to whoever perused by. And now to talk about transformation, the farm stand is now on wheels. We have a permanent structure built from trees that are cut down already from U of M. We utilized those because they would have gone to waste otherwise. Pulled by an electric truck. We have an electric powered fridge in the back to cool our food and to store our food. And we're able to do so much more, especially given the location. Our reach is insane. Um, it's such a powerful example of listening to what the students want, which is control over their own food system and control over where they get their food, how it's grown, and expanding their horizons, exploring new possibilities for um, sustainable food systems and how they can be adapted to the needs for uh, tons of different community groups, um, and just seeing it grow in both physically and impact wise. It's been super, super inspiring. And I just think it's a fantastic example of what is possible when people put their brains together and they make the connections that they want to see. Um, like creating this campus farm, and having food be grown so locally by students, very sustainably in a way that is admirable in the organic food sphere, and then having that food be transported directly into the hands of the students who want to eat that, right in the center of campus. I just think it's super, super cool. I mean, of course I'm biased. I mean, how could I not be? But objectively, it's super awesome. And yeah.
Dr. Classens, I'm wondering if I can ask you a question, because I know that there are so many incredible sort of food systems goings on at University of Toronto. Um, Sort of comparatively to other universities, I've heard that there's so much happening there. And personally, part of why I chose to come here was because of everything that's going on as far as student-led food systems initiatives and just really cool food systems work happening here. Can you tell us a little bit, and briefly about sort of what alternative campus food, student-led sort of food happenings are in the works over at U of T?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, be happy to. And I should say, I mean, I'll maybe give some shout outs to other universities in Canada as well, because, U of T, I think we do have, quite a lot of activity going on, which is great, but there's other universities as well with just really, really exceptional work happening there. So, yeah, I mean, so at University of Toronto, we have three campuses. So one sort of downtown, one in Mississauga, which is to the west. It's more of a kind of, I guess, suburban-ish campus, and then one in Scarborough, which is to the east. And so very different locations. So, for example, in Scarborough, they have a 10-acre farm because they're, they have access to that kind of land. I'm at the downtown campus, and we don't have that kind of land. Kaylee was actually just at our campus a couple weeks ago. Very kindly came to join us for an event, and saw that we're kind of right downtown. I mean, there's not a lot of land, but despite that, we have many different organizations on our campus that tend little areas but they have very small farms. So we have a few on rooftops, and then many others sort of on the ground level. Very very small sort of micro farms across campus, rooftop farms. We have a couple of student-run cafes on our campus as well. We have the just recently created U of T Food Coalition, and the impetus behind that is to sort of ramp up to having one free meal a day. So right now we're just doing one a week, but we recently just received through the Graduate Student Union a levy. So the organization is now going to be quite stably funded into the future. Each graduate student at the University of Toronto downtown campus will pay $4 per semester. So $8 in total for the academic year. And for that, they'll basically have access to a free meal every single day. So the economy for them is, it works out quite well, actually. I mean, but again, I think there's other universities. So Concordia University in Montreal has the Concordia Food Coalition. If you're interested in these kinds of things, I would, highly recommend checking out the great work that they do there. George Brown College as well has something called the Communal Lunch Program, run by Jennifer Mitchell, who's an incredible advocate and organizer. Eric Chevrier is an instructor at Concordia, who actually he wrote his dissertation on campus food sovereignty. So again, you can Google Eric Chevrier and campus food sovereignty and find out a bit more about his work. There's a really, well, I say well known, but I'm just being a nerd now. I don't know if it's so well known, but it's well known to me. At Dalhousie University, an organization called the Loaded Ladle, which also is just an exemplar kind of in this space of a student-run cafe with, deep commitments to, social justice and sustainability and, regeneration, etc. And I should also mention Trent University as well has an organization called the Seasoned Spoon, and a kind of sister organization called the Trent Vegetable Garden. And so, most of what's sold at the Seasoned Spoon, which it's a very sort of low cost cafe, is grown on campus at Trent University. And this is a really robust model, long standing. I think they've been around for probably 25 years now. And so super robust kind of social model as well. It's a co-op. I could go on and on, but I better stop probably.
It's exciting. I just took a bunch of notes, so thank you. Let's see. Perhaps we can move into some of the Q&A that's over in the Zoom Q&A feature.
And Claire is going to facilitate that, right?
That's right. I was like, I don't think I'm the one meant to facilitate this. So Clara, take it away.
Great. So we have some questions, Kenya, about the farm. Can anyone visit the farm? How?
Visit, yes. It is at the Math Botanical Gardens. If you go there, the one on Dixborough, and just scroll up the hill, it's right there. You can walk around outside the fence, please, whenever you want. If you want to come inside, probably just shoot us an email at campusfarm@umich.edu and just ask to come over, and the answer is almost certainly yes. And if you have a club or are part of a club, you can also arrange a tour and workday, or a tour or workday. We're flexible. Hit us up.
Follow up.
Also, the Campus Farm Club exists. I keep forgetting the Campus Farm Club. They have work days every Friday, and they're here.
Are there chickens, cows, or other animals involved with the campus farm? Or should there be?
every, I'd say every 2 to 3 semesters, someone puts in a new proposal to have chickens on the farm. And listen, we would all love that. However, there are some logistical hurdles that to this point have proved insurmountable, mostly being summer, and the fact that much of the labor on the farm is students who are not around during the summer, and their chickens have got to go somewhere. It's been a whole thing. Plants are also just logistically more forgiving. Like chickens, you have to feed and water every day. Plants, you can leave alone for a bit and they'll be fine. We'd love to have livestock. We haven't figured it out yet. We do have bees. For a number of, I think, years, there was a club on U of M that was like U of M beekeepers, and they had a number of apiaries that are sort of on the farm land. That club sort of disbanded or fizzled out 2 years ago, but this year we have two former interns actually who are sort of staying with the farm and are very interested in restarting it, and so they've been working on that. So possible bees next spring and summer, but no mammals or livestock yet.
Thanks, Kenya, and I'm so glad the bees will be back. You mentioned the campus farm club. Another question here in the audience is how do you get involved in food sovereignty work at U of M? It sounds like that's one way. What other ways are there? And if I may weave in some other questions, some logistical questions from the chat, could one of those ways be attending the Rooting for Change Cafe? And when is it? When is it? And is it open to students? And is there a farm stand in the spring? Also. So how to get involved and then timing specifically.
I can start here. We have a Rooting for Change Cafe in 2 weeks on Wednesday, February, I think it's the 25th. But it's definitely on Wednesday at 6 p.m. in Palmer Commons. If you just look up U of M Sustainable Food Program online, on Instagram, if you follow our newsletter, all of that will have the information you need. But yeah, in 2 weeks on Wednesday at 6 p.m. is the Rooting for Change Cafes. Um, and also U of M Sustainable Food Program and a ton of other sustainability orgs are hiring right now. So for students, absolutely go check out UMSFP's Instagram. I'm seeing the newsletter just got dropped in the chat. Check there. We're hiring. We want as many different minds as possible. So that would be a great entry point.
And to speak for Farm Stand, other than participating in the hiring spree that's happening right now, the best way to interact with the Farm Stand is by showing up and hanging out and learning from us and maybe buying a vegetable or two. All the money goes towards some really great causes like funding UMSFP's grants and helping the campus farm keep doing the wonderful things that it's doing. And to the question about if there's a farm stand in the spring, to some degree, yes, there is. The farm stand hosts a spring plant sale, so it's your opportunity to purchase your vegetable plants if you were looking to start your own garden. I highly recommend it. I took the jump and I tried to start a garden on my porch this past summer. It wasn't the best, but it was a good experience. So yeah, I don't know the exact dates to that. Clara, you probably know that better than I do, but there is an opportunity to engage with that once we start to thaw outside. So, yeah.
And those dates are unscheduled right now, but you can be sure that they will appear in the community announcements of this class for just like weeks and weeks before. So you won't be able to miss it.
Yes. And also follow the farm stand on Instagram. That's where you'll get all the updates about all of that as well.
I am going to ask another. This is a hard question, and I'm going to direct this question at Michael, but I would also love if Kenya, Lauren, and Kaylee, you want to weigh in on this. I think we could have a whole conversation just about this question in particular. But Daniel asks, so all previous grassroots food movements have been co-opted by commercial interests. Now we have this word food sovereignty. What are some precautions we can take to ensure that food sovereignty doesn't end up co-opted by corporate interests? And I might even add to that, there's also a process often of institutional co-optation of student-led projects and especially student-led activism. Um, what what should we do, Michael?
Mhm. Yeah, great question. I mean, I push back a little bit that the sort of supposition that all food justice movements have failed. I don't think that that's actually probably true. Um, and part of that is to, to look at the kind of longer durée, right? To acknowledge that food justice, people have been struggling for food justice for, I mean, centuries, really. And to some extent, I mean, we can humbly say that we're joining that struggle. And yes, some, have been, co-opted. The organic movement, for example, and some of the ways in which sort of legislation around what organic means has sort of been slowly eroded, et cetera. So yes, there has been, I think, some major losses, but I do think that there's continual victories. The way that I think about this, particularly in the context of the student food activism, that yes, the specter of, of sort of being absorbed into the, the fabric of the university and, sort of, you know, uh, neutered to some extent is an ongoing fear for sure. But I think this is where, this idea of student leadership is so important, and this associated idea of democracy, right? I mean, this is a sort of a sister idea to food sovereignty is democratic control. Now, students at the moment do not obviously have democratic control over the food system at their campus in full, but they do have maybe some democratic control over parts of it. The farm stand, the cafe, etc. And so I think that that's probably one of the most important ways to kind of insulate against those kinds of things is to ensure that students lead. And we, capital W, we society, very we get very nervous to empower students and to give students power. I mean, this has been a to and fro of social movements since the post-war period in North America and in the US and Canada. And whenever students get too much power, we get nervous about that, and for good reason, because students know what's up and they, lead us in the right direction. And so I'm confident that, by supporting students through these kinds of initiatives to maintain this kind of like commitment to sort of democracy, sort of collectivity, etc., that we're moving in the right direction.
Can I add to that real quick with
Yeah.
just some observations that I've had on since being on the farm stand team and seeing the way it works? I really love your focus on the importance of like putting leadership in the right hands to ensure that your program keeps working the way you would like it to. The beautiful thing about the farm stand and the campus farm and Sustainable Food Program is that students are the brains that are powering these programs. Of course, we have guidance from faculty like Clara and Jeremy over at the farm to help us see our visions out, but everything that we do, everything that has been from the brains of students and from the initiatives of students. And I think keeping that connection and putting that power there is very, very, it's smart, but it's also very effective. And it speaks to, the needs of the community inherently because the student community members are the ones who are in charge of making the decisions. And we have that on the ground person to person connection of like, my friends are telling me that like, oh my God, we can't find okra anywhere and we want to cook with okra because that's what my mom would cook growing up and I miss it. So we take that input and we're able to directly put it into action because we have that connection with the student community. Um, and investing in that relationship continually and investing in student leadership is so, so important. It is so integral to the work that we do. And it is so important to ensure that there's some longevity and there's genuineness and genuine change that comes out of the stuff that we do. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, Dr. Classens. I appreciate that.
So I think we're coming up on the end of our time together. There's so many more questions in the chat, and I would like many of them are sort of how-to questions, logistical questions, and I would invite any of you to reach out to me, and I'm just gonna assume other panelists also don't mind hearing from people who want to know more. So I think we can share our contact information at the end of this. This is just the beginning of this conversation. Um, Thank you all for being here. I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation together. And I think as I think about this last question that we sort of reckoned with, there's a lot of gray areas in this world, and I think there's especially a lot of gray areas in our universities. And I think it's okay to sit in that complexity sometimes. And, I think these things are both, they're simultaneously the most radical things in the world and the most palatable. And I think I feel confused about that every day, but I also feel okay with that ambiguity. Um, as a reminder, you can apply to work at the farm with UMSFP, be a farm stand manager. All we have slightly different deadlines, but you can apply. Deadlines for farm stand and UMSFP are February 27th, and deadline for campus farm is March 1st. And I will hand it back over to the instructional team.
Thank you so much, Clara, Anya, Lauren, Kaylee, Michael. That was really phenomenal. There were so many great questions in the chat. So thanks everybody for engaging in that conversation, being part of it. And I do welcome you all, on Clara's behalf at least, to reach out and continue those conversations. I have just a few updates from the community and here on campus. Several of them we've heard about today. There is one more iClicker question, so students, keep your ears pricked for that. The farm stand manager, that position is open. You can apply to hang out with them. And then there's a seed to sovereignty. So students, again, have you ever imagined something like a community pizza oven behind your residence hall, or wanted to start your own line of tomato sauce? The U of M Sustainable Food Program wants to help you bring that idea to campus. RSVP with this QR code, and you can get more information about this incubator workshop. If you're interested in, this one is for students and for folks in the community tuning in. If you're interested in the concepts of the right to food or right to grow, specifically here in Washtenaw County, you can join us, myself and Dr. Francesca Williamson from the University of Michigan Medical School on Tuesday, February 17th. For a grounding, justice-forward conversation on how food sovereignty, public health, and community power intersects. Love to see some of you there. Another one that you heard about tonight is this bite-sized food-themed variety show. They are looking for performers. So if you're interested in being a part of that, there's a QR code here. All of these are in our newsletter as well. If the QR code is hard to get to, so you'll be able to click on the link there as well. This one, there's all of these paid positions that have been talked about. The due date for applications is February 27th. And then this Drinking Through the Revolution series is continuing on for the next couple of weeks or a couple of months. The next one coming up is Coffee Nation. That'll be on February 11th, Thursday afternoon. And I think this is the last one for today. Again, reiterating all of the different opportunities to be a student doing this work. U of M Campus Farm has several internship opportunities that are open in different areas, both working on campus farm, working within the community at different urban farms throughout Washtenaw County and Detroit. Lots of really great opportunities to really get your hands in the dirt if you're a student and learn a little bit more. I think next is the last clicker question. When do, and I did say this date very specifically, so hopefully you got it. When do job applications for the University of Michigan Sustainable Food Program and other student life sustainability programs for academic year for 2026, 2027 close?
All right, we've got student answers rolling in. It looks like most folks got it right. So we'll give them just a few more seconds before we share out what that answer is. We have over 200 students in the class, and I can see what number has responded right now. We're at about 165. So we'll give them maybe 5 to 7 more seconds. Julius, go ahead and take it away and tell us what the correct answer is.
All right, big surprise. Hopefully you were listening. It was also in the chat. They are due on February 27th. Get your applications in.
Next week, we've got a great speaker who I think is going to be really important. I am looking forward to learning from Dr. David Ortega from Michigan State University to teach us about inflation related to food and tariffs and like how does that all really work. I feel like I have a vague idea of how that works, but he's going to really break it down and help us understand. So I really hope that you'll tune in. We understand cost of living is a barrier, is a thing, inflation is a thing, but my deep economics understanding is not great at this, so I will look forward to him sort of translate that into the decisions being made at different scales and how they then trickle back to affect you and me and everyone. So I'm really looking forward to this and to you guys joining us. And I want to thank our panelists again, all of them, and Clara for joining us, as well as the Food Literacy for All team, Julius, Taylor, Sammy, and all our great folks behind the scenes. So thank you so much. I mean, how lucky are we? You guys see every week these slides of these opportunities and things like that. And most of you will also see that in our weekly newsletter. And we got to hear about them in a lot more depth. So I really appreciate that. And really, I appreciate your leadership, all of you, especially those of you who are students, in doing this work. When I was an undergraduate at this university, really interested in wanting to engage in food in the late 90s, these things didn't exist. And they exist because of the leadership and support of people like Clara and that program, and then the leadership of students stepping up to make them all happen. So thank you, and I wish you guys the best on your continued academic and career journeys, which are no doubt going to be really impactful in the world. So thanks, everyone. We'll see y'all next week.